Hey everybody, Shoebox Legends here. Thanks for joining me for another episode today. This is going to be a look at a bargain basement, in my opinion, order that I was able to put together on Sport Lots recently. Was really pumped to find this. This is a seller that I've purchased from a few times now who seems to put stuff up just at dirt cheap prices just to move product, I guess. But put together this order. It contains 20 hockey cards. And the grand total for, before shipping at least, was $9.93. So if you do the math on this, paid just about 50 cents a card, or slightly under 50 cents a card to add these to the collection. And they're modern, shiny cards. And this one that's out here, this Allure Leopard parallel of Alex Ovechkin, is directly related to a lot of these. So we'll get into the pickups here. Most of them are from a recent set that just came out, but I had two stragglers that I threw on to the order from a release that I'm always sort of on the lookout for, and that is the 2013-14 Panini Prism hockey release. I love this set. I've talked about it ad nauseum here in the first few months of the channel, but look at that etching through that sweater on this Dustin Brown. This is the red. Dustin Brown, obviously a longtime captain of the LA Kings. Shout out to Pepino Man. And, he may not be a Hall of Famer, but he won more than one Stanley Cup for the city of Los Angeles and was definitely a notable player. So happily scooped up this red Prism of his. Always talking about just vacuuming up, whatever affordable parallels I can find that are left out there from that release. Really starting to see that one kind of take off. And paid a quarter for that red Dustin Brown. And then here's a blue. This is Ed Jovanovsky, who has started way back in the 90s, but lasted a long time. He's another team captain here with the Florida Panthers. So I guess that was the theme of this duo. And he was had in blue for the site minimum 18 cents, which is just criminal. He was a very solid player who lasted, more than a couple decades in the league. And so I will gladly be adding those to my Shiny Hockey Z folio at the conclusion of shooting this episode. And then the other 18 cards that I picked up are all these Allure Leopard parallels. So I received this Ovechkin from Spidey over at Aranya Boys recently. Just an awesome surprise care package that he sent me that had that Ovi. Had finally got an opportunity to see it in hand. And had an order that I had put together on Sport Lots that came in right around the same time. And as I said, this seller had a batch of, 20, almost 20 of these that I grabbed. I think there were one or two I left behind that I probably should have grabbed, just common players that at this price point would have made sense. But a lot of these were as cheap as like 30 to 35 cents. So here we go. First out of the gate here, we have a JVR for the Flyers. The Leopard parallel looks really nice on the Flyers. It's a team color match parallel of sorts when you think about it. Going to tuck this one away in the stack that I have building for my buddy Brian at Walk and Balk, who's a Flyers guy. So Brian, that'll be on its way to you at some point. Similarly, here's a Matthew Tkachuk who scored, this past weekend, if you didn't see the highlight, an amazing between the legs goal. That is definitely worth checking out. But my buddy Sean Savage, who doesn't have a YouTube channel but has been a friend of mine in the card community for a while now, he super collects all the Tkachuks, whether the current generation that playing in the NHL or Keith Tkachuk before them. And so reached out to him and let him know I would be dropping this one in the mail. Just wanted to shoot this episode first and show it off, and that will be heading his way. The rest of these, at least for now, I'll be hanging on to. I've got a Vegas Golden Knights card here of William Karlsson, who's been at times red hot for Vegas in terms of scoring. And these are really neat. When I showed off the Ovechkin card in the care package from Spidey, Pepino Man made a comment that absolutely cracked me up, and I'm going to adopt his vernacular. But he said he refers to these leopard print and other animal parallels like this as the Peggy Bundy parallel, which I thought was absolutely hilarious. And so yeah, I got a bunch of Peggy Bundys to show off today. There's a Tyler Seguin, Got some bright young talent who's kind of yet to be determined how their careers will pan out, but some guys like defenseman Quinn Hughes of the Canucks. You got Nico Hischier for the Devils, another young guy. He's a forward. And another center who's young and talented, Elias Pettersson, also of the Canucks. Yeah, I mean, I just, raking these in for, pennies on the dollar, paying like about three for a dollar, at least for these lower tier stars. It's just, I was pretty stunned. Here's Ryan Getzlaf, a guy with a very long career. His counting stats are certainly adding up at this point. And of course does have a Stanley Cup championship to his name as well. Next up, we got Jonathan Huberto of the Florida Panthers, who have been scorching hot to start the 2020-21 NHL season. Even though they just lost their coach, Joel Quenneville, to that scandal out of Chicago that broke, they are still on fire and are first place, at least at the time of shooting this video. Here's a guy who was just recently traded, Jack Eichel, Boston native and longtime captain of the Sabres. And I think I saw where he just signed with the Vegas Golden Knights. He had some disagreements with the Buffalo organization about some approaches to deal with a health concern that he's been dealing with, and eventually was dealt away. Now we get into these last few here. These would be definitely classified as my favorites. We got two bright young stars here from the Carolina Hurricanes team. And just like the Florida Panthers, they've been off to a red-hot start. I am very high on the Carolina Hurricanes, not just because they used to be my beloved Hartford Whalers, but also because they have a really talented young team that I believe is built out to win and has some great leaders. And among those young talents are these two guys, Andrei Svechnikov on the right and Sebastian Aho, one of my favorite young stars in the league, a guy who I think is criminally underrated. Really happy to get these teammates in their matching white Canes jerseys on this particular parallel. Both very, very talented players. Aho in particular, who's from Finland, I think is an absolute stud with really good leadership qualities and someone who's going to have a tremendous career at the NHL level. So if you're looking for somebody to grab some cards on the cheap early on in their career, I would highly recommend, if you're a hockey card collector, adding some Sebastian Aho to your PC. Next up, we got two more stars here who have really been racking up the points in recent seasons. Kucherov, who's unfortunately injured again for the Tampa Bay Lightning, but is a big part of the reason that they are back-to-back Stanley Cup champions right now. And then Artemi Panarin, who, despite facing some drama in his homeland, Russia, last season, just continues to be one of the top point producers in the league year in and year out. I think he has a shot at the Hall of Fame down the line. It's a little bit early to speculate on that, but happily vacuum up cards of these two anytime I run across them at these types of prices. We'll put these guys up as well, since they're some notable players there. Love that Kucherov. And these parallels are just great. This Allure set is amazing. This is not the first year that it's existed, but I think Upper Deck even kind of stepped it up a notch with the parallels, beyond what they've even done previously. I've got two Bruins here, two of these studs and stars from the modern incarnation of the Bruins team. Love him or hate him, I happen to love him, Brad Marchand, and Sniper, David Pastrnak. So Pasternak's been off to a little bit of a slow start as far as individual statistics this campaign, but he is very streaky, and I'm sure will be lighting it up in no time flat. It was only a year or two back that he shared the Rocket Richard Trophy with Alex Ovechkin for most goals in the league. So very, very good player. And Marchand, I think, is turning out to be the type of player who could sneakily get into the Hall of Fame if his antics don't prevent that. Things like licking guys' faces and slew footing, things like that. But very talented player with tremendous offensive skill and is a joy to watch, at least when he's on your team. And then last but not least, the two cards that I was most excited about, having already owned the Ovechkin, thanks to Spidey and his generosity here. Probably the two players in the entire league that I would want most are the other two that I was able to grab and secure here. The first being Leon Dreissitel. Underrated star for the Oilers. McDavid, he plays in the shadow of Connor McDavid, but he is almost every bit as good. I think he is a top 5, certainly, and arguably a top 3 player in the entire NHL right now. I've mentioned this to a couple of my hockey card collecting buddies recently. In my personal opinion, Dreissitel cards are a screaming buy right now. When you look at the value of his cards compared to, Connor McDavid, Alex Ovechkin, some of his contemporaries, he is very, very underpriced. He's already won a scoring title. He's already won an MVP. He's, going to vie, hopefully, for a Stanley Cup in the coming years alongside McDavid. And I think this is a great time to add some Dreissitel to your collection if you're a hockey card collector. And then on that note, of course, doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure it out, was able to secure the Connor McDavid Leopard parallel. If you can believe it, and I can show you the invoice to prove it, this was had for $2.50. So that is a deal that I absolutely couldn't pass up. I've been enjoying adding cards of this, who I personally feel is the single most dominating athlete on the planet in any sport right now, in Connor McDavid. So when you can get a nice parallel of his for just a couple bucks, that's, growing increasingly difficult and nearing the territory of unheard of already at this stage in his career. So really glad to scoop that up, and really glad that you joined me for 12 minutes here of hockey card talk and checking out some of my Peggy Bundy parallels, copyright Pepino Man. So that's a wrap for today. Thanks for stopping by and enjoying some of this shine, and I will certainly be back in the near future with some more sports card content. Until then, take care.